Hello, welcome to the fourth video. So in this video we are doing problem number 2 together from the handout Proportions from Tables and Graphs. This will be very similar to what you are doing in problem 1. It'll be shorter, so let's take a look. Number 2. The following table shows the pounds of meat on a sandwich and the calories in the sandwich. Now, before we begin, I would like you to always think about the independent and dependent variables first. In this problem, we're comparing the pounds of meat and the calories. So these are the two variables. What is dependent on what? Is the amount of meat dependent on the calories, or does the calorie depend on the meat? And we should all have the same understanding that the calories of food depends on how much of the food you eat. So calories depend on the amount of meat. In this case, calories is the dependent variable and meat is the independent variable. And remember, if it's dependent, we usually say that's the y value, and if it's independent, that will be the x value. So we already determined the independence and the dependent variables. Now let's look at the first part of the question. Excuse me. Part A, it says, is this a proportional relationship? And how do you know? From the previous problems, we've talked about proportional relationships, and that's when you have constant of proportionality. We need to figure out what these numbers are being multiplied by. So what is x being multiplied by to get the y value? What is this x being multiplied to get the y value? Now, you don't always have to start with the first column or the first part of the table. I always start with the unit rate, because this one is easy. 1 times a number, that gives you 650. 1 times a number, that gives you 650. What would that be? That is going to be 650, because 1 times a number is a number itself. So if you multiply 650 to 1, that's just going to give you 650. And that's why here we can use this number to see if everything is being multiplied by 650. Because if now this is being multiplied by 650 and that's multiplied by 650, here, the same here and here, if everything's being multiplied by 650, then it will be proportional. And that's what we need to check. So that's what I'm going to do. You may use a calculator too. So here's what I did. We started with this part here and we said, well, 1 times 650 is 650. And if I checked with this one. Now, 0.5 times 650, is that going to give me 560? I put that in the calculator and it says 0.5 times 650 is 325. 325 is not 560, they're different. So for this one, the constant of proportionality is not 650, so it doesn't work. And I actually checked with the other one as well, and I multiply 1.5 this time by 650 to see if that gives me 740. Put in the calculator and I got 975. That's not equal to 740. So again, you cannot multiply by 650. So it does not work. Meaning everything, not everything is being multiplied by the same number 650. And since not every x value is not being multiplied by 650, this is not proportional. Now remember, I showed you another way to check if it's proportional. That was when you do y divided by x. And if you do 560 divided by 0.5, that is going to give you 1,120. And if you do 650 divided by 1, That is 650. So even if you do y divided by x, you're not going to get the same number. So this is not proportional. And let me write the answer. I said, no, this is not a proportional relationship because the amount of meat, the x value, like 0.5, 1, 1.5, these numbers are not being multiplied by the same number to get the y value. 0.5 divided by 650 did not equal to 560. 1 times 650 equals 650, so that worked. But it didn't work for this one, it does not work for the other ones. So this is not being multiplied by the same number, so it's not proportional. You will have to use calculator sometimes to do this a little faster. You can do this by hand without a calculator, but it could have taken you a longer time. So sometimes I will allow you to use calculator. In part B, this one is easy because we already know the independent and dependent variables. We said the independent variable is the amount of meat and the dependent variable is the calories. So you just have to write that in sentences. So I said the independent variable is the amount of meat, which is the x value, and the dependent variable is the calories, which is the y value. That is the end of the problem number 2. From part A to part B. Now, the next part, I'm going to continue on to part C. So don't think this is the end on the first page because I'm going to continue on to the next slide. Part C, it tells us to graph the table. Now, when you graph, please refer back to your table because your table tells you the points. For example, again, the meat was the independent variable and the calories were the dependent variable. So this was the x and this was the y. And using that, you can make points. If points are x comma y, then your first point from this part here, the x is 0.5. So 0.5 comma 560. And the next one will be 1 comma 650 and so on. So using this, you can graph it. So when graphing, we need to label the axes first. Since x value are the meat on the x-axis, which is the horizontal, and here the y-axis, the x-axis we're going to label as meat. And then this is in pounds. The y-axis, we're going to label that as calories. Then we're going to plot it. You can pause the video to plot it on your own and check back, or you can continue on, follow along the video. So 0.5 comma 560, so it's somewhere here. Can't really plot it perfectly. And then next point is 1 comma 650, so that's the point here. Then 1.5 comma 740, so that's going to be around here. Can't really draw the points. The next one is 2 comma 830, so between 800 and 850 in the middle. And then the next one is 2.5 comma 920, so a little close to 900. Okay, so if you connect those points using a straight edge, I'll do that. This is what I got. But again, we need to always extend the line. Make sure your line touches all the way through the y-axis. So if I extend the line, and if I extend the line here, and I make it longer, it's gonna look like this. I'm gonna have an arrow going out. And that is your graph. Part D tells us to look at the graph, examine the graph, and what conclusion can you make? What do you notice about this graph? Yes, it is a straight line, But what else you notice is that this one, it does not go through the origin. And so if it does not go through the origin, you can say, so this is not a proportional relationship. It's not proportional because it's straight, but it does not go through the origin. That's the end of problem number 2. We are going to move on to problem number 3 in the next video. That will be the 5th video. That will be the last one that we're going to do for now with this handout. So please keep working hard. You're doing really well. We're only going to do up to number 3 together on the video. So please, I will see you on the last video, the next one.